outside of Nashville, Tennessee. This is the award-winning podcast, ParaReality.
Good evening, everybody, and thanks for listening tonight. As usual, I'm Sandman, and I'll be your guide through this strange realm of ghosts, cryptids, UFOs, aliens, conspiracy theories, and other unsolved mysteries that I like to call ParaReality. Well, now that we've got the first month of 2022 over with, I guess it's safe to say that nothing's really changed. If you're like me, I know you're hoping that this pandemic will die down and we'll get to whatever the new normal will be, but things haven't really changed much. But I think this Omicron variant is a sign that the virus is beginning to weaken as it mutates. So we may just have to wait until the spring to find out if this is the beginning of the end or not. Then maybe, just maybe, we can go back to taking our paranormal road trips again. I know a lot of you have already started doing that anyway because you're tired of waiting around for things to settle down and you just can't take it anymore. Trust me, I understand, believe me. So as long as you're being smart about it and you're taking the proper precautions, I say go for it. Why continue to stay cooped up and not go anywhere and do anything, especially when it's something that you love to do? Speaking of going for it, that's exactly what my special guest tonight has done. She's decided that she couldn't wait any longer to get back out there and take those paranormal road trips. So she started hitting the road again, and boy, does she have some stories to tell. Her name is Courtney, and she's a haunted travel blogger, paranormal investigator, and all-around spooky enthusiast from Buffalo, New York. Since October of 2020, she's been running the Instagram account called The Ghoul Guide and updating curious minds on all the abandoned and haunted locations and ghost stories she comes across in her travels around the East Coast and the Midwest. She also has the honor of being my very first guest here of Season 16, and I can't wait for you to hear some of her amazing stories. And of course, as always, to learn more, you'll need to turn on, tune in, and find out. But before we get into all of that, listen to this. ParaReality is a proud member of the Straight Up Strange podcast network. To learn more about all the awesome podcasts that are members of the Straight Up Strange family, go to straightupstrange.com and get strange. Hey, how would you like to be an agent of chaos? What is chaos? It's the knowledgeable apprentices of Sandman, and that's what I call my Patreon account members. I'm looking for new agents, and I'd love it if you'd sign up to become one. There are 3 levels of agents, and all are extremely affordable, $5 a month or less. Each level offers exclusive content, along with the ability to help create podcast episodes, and even the chance to be a guest or a co-host. To learn more, head on over to patreon.com/parareality. 100% of the proceeds from Patreon goes back into producing quality content for this podcast. You are listening to the ParaReality Podcast, your information source for conspiracy theories, UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. New episodes drop the first Friday of every month at 8 o'clock p.m. Central U.S. time. Listen on your favorite podcast station. Turn on, tune in, and find out.
If you wish to change, you must first lift the veil of ignorance that has been cast over your eyes. Only then will you see the true power of the universe.
Everybody, I have a very special guest on ParaReality this evening, the first guest of 2020, as a matter of fact. Her name is Courtney, and she is a haunted travel blogger, paranormal investigator, and spooky enthusiast from Buffalo, New York. And since October of 2020, she's been running the Instagram account, The Ghoul Guide, and updating curious minds on all of the abandoned and haunted locations and ghost stories she comes across in her travels around the East Coast and the Midwest. So everyone, I want you to give a big welcome to Courtney. Courtney, thanks for being a guest here, the first guest of 2022 here on ParaReality. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be the first guest of 2022.
I might have said 2020 myself. I can't remember now. But
honestly, the years have all blended in together, so
oh my
I'm
God.
lucky I know what day it is.
I know, right? It's just been the last 2 years. It's just, now you first of all, you can't go anywhere. Then you can go some places, and then you can't go anywhere, and then you can go everywhere. And now you don't know where you can go and what you can do. It's just weird. But anyway, thank you for agreeing to be on the podcast. And as I just said, you're the first guest of 2022. So, I'll send you some sort of I'll send you an award or something. I don't know. I'm making that up. I'm just but so yeah, thank you really seriously, in all seriousness. Thank you for appearing on the podcast. And I want to start off by asking you, what exactly is the Ghoul Guide?
So the Ghoul Guide is kind of like a passion project for me. I've always been interested in the paranormal. Ever since I was little, it's kind of always just been like this weird constant in my life. And when we were forced to go inside for quarantine, I kind of got I guess you can say a second wind, and I kind of started embracing the paranormal more. And one day, in the summer of 2020, I kind of sat and got this idea that, I go to all these places and I love to write. So why not just make an Instagram blog about it? And I gave myself the deadline to post in October. Yeah. And from October 1st on, it's been this crazy weird blog where I've just been updating all my travels and, telling all these ghost stories and trying to bring everyone along with me.
And this is just strictly social media stuff. You don't have a website for this, right?
No, this is just strictly social media as of right now. I'm kind of working on a website so I can get a little blog up and running. But I've also been featured on Haunted History Chronicles, where I did write a blog about the new haunt in Indiana.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to keep that in the background because I want to talk about that. So right now, how can people, besides Instagram, I guess you're the Ghoul Guide on Instagram, correct? Is that your?
So if anyone's interested, I am on Twitter. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Facebook. I'm mostly on Instagram, and I'm just kind of starting to branch out more. Okay. Like I said, I just started this in 2020, so I was just starting to get my feet on the ground running with it. So now I'm kind of figuring out what I really want to do with it.
Okay. And so it's on all your social media, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.
I am the Ghoul Guide.
The Ghoul Guide. Okay. All right. So if you want
Ghoul Guide all across the board.
All right. If you want to find Courtney, just look up Ghoul Guide on the social media account of your choice, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
So you said that you have kind of always been interested in the paranormal. Can you pick out maybe one event that really kicked it off for you? What got you started with your interest?
So I would pick the first experience that I remember having. It was in the middle of the night. I was probably around 7 years old. Mm-hmm. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night and looking out my bedroom window and I saw this face in the bottom right corner, and it froze. Like, I was frozen in fear because my bedroom was on the second story, and there was absolutely no way anyone could get to that window. Like, there was no ladder outside or anything like that. So I just remember being like frozen in fear and like, what is that? And I just like ran and hid behind something, and it felt like an eternity, but it was probably only like a couple minutes.
Yeah.
And I remember like peeking out behind something, and then it was gone. And I never knew what it was. I never knew who it was. I can't really remember any features of it. I just know that it scared me to no end. And it kind of just like sparked this little interest that was already there. But yeah, it was just something that I kind of carried with me all these years and never really spoke about. And when I started the Ghoul Guide, I kind of like opened up with that experience.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been nice to like have that experience out there and like talked about.
Yeah, kind of get it off your the weight off your shoulders, so to speak. Yeah, that's very similar to what got me interested in the paranormal. So that's cool to find someone that has a similar story. I didn't have a face in the window or anything, but I had, when I was I think it was around 9 or 10 years old, I had an experience where something walked into the threshold of my room, and I was awake, and I don't know what time of the night it was, but I was awake, and my mother slept with a nightlight on in the hall because she just doesn't like the dark, and so I had a very good view of my room, the hallway, and everything, and whatever was there, you couldn't see, but you could hear, and it was very, very scary. And that was my very first experience with anything, and I had kind of been a little interested in it before because my mother had a book on the Bermuda Triangle, and I remember I was too young to like read the book and understand what was going on, but I remember I would constantly look at the cover. The cover fascinated me, and I would ask her about it, and so it's very kind of, we parallel in our interests. That's very cool to find someone who has a
yeah. And I love that you just brought up the Bermuda Triangle, because as like a kid, I thought that would be more of a problem than what it actually was. Like, I thought I was gonna like run into the Bermuda Triangle and like hell was gonna break loose, and I've like never even stepped near the ground, anywhere near it.
I think
that was always one thing that always fascinated me too.
Yeah, I think in some of my travels I've flown in little corners of the Bermuda Triangle, but obviously nothing's happened yet. So knock on wood here, I'm fine. So,
right, fingers crossed.
Exactly. So, tell me, before I forget, tell me about this new haunted place in Indiana. So,
just recently,
it was Indiana, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry to cut you off.
So just recently, it's okay. This place out in Indiana kind of opened up after sitting vacant for 10 years. Mm-hmm. It's called the Indiana State Sanatorium, and it held a couple lives before it ultimately closed in 2010. And since 2010, it has been sitting completely untouched. And when I say that, I mean, like, you walk down the hallway, there's still papers and memos hanging up on the walls.
Wow.
Behind the food line in the cafeteria, there is dietary restrictions held up. So like, you would go into these rooms and it'd be virtually untouched. And Destination Fear was the first crew that kind of got the chance to go in and investigate. And they also brought it into the paranormal world in the TV sense. Mm-hmm. So it is like brand new. The owner just got it in December of 2020. And I believe Destination Fear went in March to film. And from March till August, because I investigated in August, only a handful of people really went in to like see what has been going on.
Yeah.
So no one really knows what is going on with the haunting, because it's just so brand new. But there is something definitely there.
And you have investigated it yourself.
Yeah. So I actually had been very, very fortunate to spend an entire weekend on the ground.
Wow.
We got there on a Thursday and we left on a Sunday. And I remember pulling up, it was like a horror movie scene, because I pulled up in probably like 10 after midnight after driving for like 9 hours. I pulled off on a dirt road out of like, there were cornfields everywhere. And I was like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? But like,
straight out of a horror movie.
Like, yeah, it was like straight out of a horror movie. And then my friend Steve was telling me like, oh, there's tree snakes. The one building has been taken over by turkey vultures. I was like, I drove 9 hours.
Wow.
Like, what are we doing? What are we doing here?
Turkey vultures are huge.
I've never seen one, but I didn't even like go near those buildings that they were in. I didn't even want to touch it.
So,
but the whole ground, I think we got access to 6 buildings.
Yeah.
And 3 of those buildings are connected. But then there was like a superintendent mansion, or like a house, and then there was the mechanical building, or like the laundry building and stuff. So it's definitely worth the drive, and it's definitely worth to check out. This is probably might be like your first time hearing about it, but it definitely is not going to be your last.
So how did you gain access to this place? How are you able to be one of the first people to do this, to investigate this place?
So I have been very fortunate to link up with my friend Steve. You may know Steve. He was on Destination Fear for the Saratoga County Homestead episode. He's the property manager for that, and he also owns a event company called Haunted Nights. So I kind of jump along on there and like help him run his events.
Okay.
And so he rented it out for the entire weekend, and it was us, a couple of friends, and whoever bought tickets for the events that we kind of just had access to the grounds from, I want to say like 6:00 p.m. to 6 a.m.
So the owner will rent this out to you?
What was that?
I said the owner of this place will rent it out to people?
Oh, yeah. All you have to do is search them on Facebook. I believe they're called just Haunted Indiana State Sanatorium. And you can rent out this building for yourself.
Wow.
I know that they do a different options to it. You can do like photo tours. You can just do tours if you don't want to really sink in and do like the paranormal stuff. Because I will say we had stuff happen in the daylight hours.
Okay.
So no matter like where you're going for this, like you'll get activity. But check them out on Facebook. They should have like a calendar, and then you can see like what dates are open, if they're doing any dates and stuff, and you can just jump on and see this massive place for yourself.
Wow, yeah, I'm looking at their Facebook page right now, as a matter of fact. It's not that expensive to do it Sunday through really Thursday. Wow. I mean, if you're doing it by yourself, it's not feasible. Well, it is, but I wouldn't want to pay that. I'm not going to say how much it is on the air, but.
Yeah, but I mean, if you get like a group of your friends to go and rent it out for a whole night, you will be in for it, and it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, that is. Well, I'm just gonna have to like this page here. Let me do that right now before I forget about that.
Yeah, and if you like really want to like kind of get like a glimpse of like what this place is and like what's it about, the Destination Fear episode is on Discovery Plus. I highly recommend it just to like kind of get like a visual of the whole place and like what I'm talking about.
I've seen it. I saw that as you were talking about it, and you said Destination Fear was there. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that episode.
Yeah, I like that episode was so cool, mainly because I never had the chance to like go to a new haunt before everyone, like before like the world saw it, I guess you can say.
Mm-hmm.
So having that whole weekend out there, and then like sitting at home seeing like the place on TV, it was so cool to be like, oh, I was there and I had that experience there.
Wow, you are really lucky to get to be one of the first people to experience something like that. So, what were you able to capture?
So we had a lot of weird things happen. On the first like night we really investigated, we kind of split up into groups and we were going to try something. I believe the floor we were on in like the psych ward, we were on the third floor, and I think that was for the women who couldn't be around men. So the women in the group that we had, we all piled ourselves into a room while the guys stayed in like a little lobby area and tried to do like an EVP session. So I shut the door, and it didn't shut by itself, so I was holding it shut. And probably about 5 minutes of me holding it shut, the door gets pushed on, and as if something was like opening it on me. And I just remember like holding my hand on the doorknob and like watching the door open towards me. And I looked at my friend Deanna. Deanna was like, oh my God, she's not doing that. And I was like, what is happening? So we had that happen. And then that like really freaked me out because I expected like one of the boys to be there being like, oh, hey, we're done. But like when I pulled open the door that was like opening, like no one was there.
Wow. That's scary.
Yeah, it definitely was like, oh, okay, like what is going on? And that same night we were wrapping up probably around like 5:45. We had to let a couple people out of the gate. And as we got in the car, my friend Steve was driving and I jumped in the back seat. And he was like, I didn't really think the place was active tonight. And he was just talking a whole bunch of crap. And out of nowhere, we heard this, hey, and he slammed on the brakes. Steve and Dylan, who was also in the front seat, they both looked back at me like, why'd you say hey? And I was like, what are you talking about? So we heard a disembodied voice in our own car.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that never happened, but that was like really freaking us.
Yeah, that's almost like something followed you out.
Yeah. But like it was just weird. I didn't really hear the hey. I just remember them slamming on their brakes and asking me what was going on.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you guys talking about? And they were like, you didn't say anything? I was like, no, I was looking at my phone real quick. And I was like, oh my God. But I would say like the craziest thing that happened there was, are you familiar with the Estes sessions?
I'm sorry, say the what?
Are you familiar with like the Estes method?
Vaguely, yeah.
When it like vaguely?
Vaguely.
Okay, so for all those who don't know what the Estes session is, or the Estes method, it's basically listening to a spirit box, but instead of listening to it out loud, someone has noise canceling headphones on, and it pumps the spirit box through that, and whoever is listening to it is sitting there blindfolded. So they really can't see anything that's happening in front of them. They can't hear whatever is being asked or whatever is being talked about. And they're basically just shouting out whatever they hear through the headphones coming through the spirit box. So it's like one of my favorite experiments to do. I think they're so fun. And I remember sitting next to a patient room in the nursing home wing that was there. And it felt like a hospital day was passing me by, and I was just waiting outside, like waiting to visit someone, I guess you could say. I felt like the rumbling of like a cart move past me as I did this. And one of the things that scared me the most was that all the static in my one headphone left. And clear as day, a little old lady spoke into like the spirit box or in the headphones. And it was clear, and it said, "Are you new here?"
Oh.
And I remember just being like, wait, what? Like, and I had to like take my blindfold off for a quick second to make sure like no one was next to me, because it was that clear.
And it's very unusual to get more than like one or two words through a spirit box session as well. So to get a complete sentence is great.
Yeah, it definitely stopped me in my tracks for a minute. And you know, whenever I do like the sessions and like I pull myself out, I really don't remember anything that is said. You know, there's like a few key phrases that I remember, but nothing has stuck out to me quite like that. And I don't know if she was talking to me, or if I don't know if she was talking to like all the other friends that we had going, or that was there that night, but it was definitely something that like stopped and made me think, and still has me thinking.
Yeah, she was definitely talking to somebody, obviously. So what are some of your other favorite places that you've managed to go to?
So I managed to gather up a couple of favorite places this year. One of them is called the Saratoga County Homestead. It was also featured on Destination Fear, and it is an old TB hospital out in the middle of the woods near the Adirondacks in New York. And it is one of the most terrifying places that I've walked into. There's like a mixture of things. The building is, I want to say, like 80 years old. It's been set on fire at least 3 times, and it's just like a shell of its former self, but yet somehow it's still holding on. And you have the elements coming in, but you also have the wildlife mixed in, not to mention the total darkness that engulfs the place once the sun sets. And then you also have the lingering spirits that are there. So it's just like a mixture, but
that sounds like something out of Friday the 13th.
Yeah. It really is scary. And a lot of people, like, I say that, and a lot of people are like, oh, well, you go to scary places all the time, but like, this place is terrifying.
And what did you have happen to you while you were there?
So while we're there, I've done a couple cleanup days there. So we're trying to get like the building kind of like restored. So like people can do investigations there and come and visit it, but it just has to get cleaned up a little bit. So during cleanup days, we'll hear walking, we'll hear voices that belong to people that just aren't there. You know, we've seen shadows out the corner of our eyes. And more recently, they've been kind of getting, I want to say, ballsy, I guess you can say.
Okay.
Like they're showing themselves more to us. The basement is definitely the worst place for me. It's just dark and creepy. If you, whenever we go out there, we kind of do like Instagram live investigations. Because I don't film, like I don't do YouTube or anything. So like going on live is kind of like, hey, just come hang out with us. Yeah. And the last time, like the second to last time we were there, we were on live, and we had people telling us that they heard, breathing that wasn't coming from us. They were seeing shadows behind us. In the basement, we went lights off, and after our eyes adjusted, I remember getting like this really weird feeling that I shouldn't look over my left shoulder. And I was terrified, and I was like, no, it's okay. And I remember looking over, and there was this dark shadow that went up to like the threshold of the walkway. And I quickly turned around and I was like, it's okay. It's just like the cutout. It's just graffiti. It is what it is. So I was like trying to like rationalize it with myself.
Yeah.
And my friend was like across the way and he was looking at us. And I guess he saw something move to the right of Dylan, which was to the right of me. And he saw a shadow move. So he asked Dylan to move. And Dylan moved the other way and he goes, oh no, that was something. So I go,
Ooh.
can we please like turn the lights on? I flipped on my flashlight. I instantly turned around to like the threshold and I stood there for 10 minutes going, there's nothing there. Like there was nothing that could have made the shadow that I saw. There was no cutout. There was no graffiti. Like I know what I saw. And the only explanation I have is that whatever was standing next to me walked behind me and Dylan, stood next to Dylan, and then walked away, which he saw thinking it was Dylan.
That's wow.
Yeah. And that same night, I think I have this on my Instagram, like reel somewhere. I actually got an EVP of the spirits there calling me out.
Ooh, okay. When you say calling,
it was
calling you out, what were they saying?
So we put our DR60 all the way in like the children's wing, and we left it there completely alone for probably about like 5-10 minutes. And when we got it back, we listened to it, and after Steve and I walked away, you can hear 2 distinct male voices go, "There's a girl with them. There's a girl there." Clear as day, and we were the only 3 in the building.
Okay. Well, that's
yeah.
That's
yeah.
that's pretty good. That's pretty good evidence there. I mean, if you're the only 3. Yeah. Now you said DR50. Yeah. Isn't that like an old I keep wanting to say
recorder.
Tape. Yeah, I keep wanting to say tape recorder. I'm showing my age, but it's not a digital recorder. Isn't that an older model digital recorder?
Yeah. So it's from Panasonic. It's like this square looking recorder, and it came on the scene because people were getting like these recorders for like college lectures and, you know, for whatever reason. And when they would play it back, they began to hear things that weren't there, and they were hearing voices and things get picked up that, you know, didn't happen at that time. So, you know, people, they kind of just like threw them away. And when like ghost hunters and stuff came onto the scene, they started using those for, you know, their EVP sessions. And with, you know, like the TV scene, they kind of took off, and they're so much money. They're ridiculous. I think I found one on eBay for, I think it's going for like $4,000.
Wow.
So like they are a hot commodity, but you can use any digital recorder. You don't need like that fancy pants one.
So what kind of equipment do you use when you do your investigating?
So I'm terrible because I started when there really wasn't any equipment. So I'm the type of person that has equipment but just forgets to use it. So whenever I do use equipment, it's always like a digital recorder. We take out the Ovilus 3. I love the Spirit Box for the Estes sessions and the Estes method. We also use the Music Box, which I hate with a passion because I just think it's the creepiest thing. But yeah, we kind of use like a whole handful of things just to like see what gets used and what doesn't. But I am definitely one that just forgets about that equipment all the time.
Do you use night vision video or infrared?
I have a camera that I do use infrared on, but I get I will say that I get way too caught up in the moment with these things that I forget to film. And I'm lucky to like remember to film for stuff on my phone for like Instagram and stuff. It's just so much fun. Like a lot of people have asked like if I'm ever going to do YouTube or like start filming the videos, and just like, I don't know, guys. I have so much fun just hanging out in these buildings that I don't really need to like film anything.
Yeah,
but
I am very much in the same way that you are. I have equipment. I don't. First of all, I don't believe in going in there with like, you know, a ton of equipment like what you see, you know, on these TV shows. You know, I don't believe in going in there with a ton of equipment, but I am more along with you. I just mainly go for the experience, not necessarily because I'm wanting to document every single little bitty thing that happens to me. I'm just more about the experience of everything.
Yeah. Like I've come to realize that I really, really enjoy the thrill of it all. I know a lot of people won't say that. I don't know why, but the thrill I get of getting scared when it comes in these buildings is like next level. And it's very addicting. It's very fun, but I don't know. I just kind of like going into these buildings and, you know, sitting in a room for 40 minutes and, you know, just letting the building open up to you. And, you know, you get comfortable in their space and they get comfortable with you. And, you know, you'd be amazed to see like what happens when, you know, like you're not investigating. And this recently happened to us at Madison Seminary. Back in September, we did this private hunt, and we know Adam and Becca, so we got in there a little early, and it was just three of us, and we were up in the asylum, and me and my friend Deanna, we were playing a game of checkers on the floor. Her husband Mark was rolling around in one of the wheelchairs, taking a whole bunch of videos and stuff, and we just weren't investigating. But as I remember, like, as we were playing checkers, her husband was in the wheelchair recording something, and he played it back. And in that recording on his phone, you can hear a clear as day EVP coming from it. So, like, we had no equipment out. All we had was our phones, and we still ended up catching something.
Which is great, because that's really when you get, in my opinion, the best evidence is when you're really not trying to get any evidence.
Exactly. Yeah, and then like I think we like did like a little, like we did like a little EVP session out of that, and we got some incredible responses. But like even after that, I want to say, yeah, in November, I had the chance to close out my quote unquote season at Madison. And we were doing an event for Haunted Nights, which is Steve's event company that I jump onto. And we lost a piece of equipment the night before. So the three of us, we walked the halls, just trying in the morning after we slept over, just trying to like figure out where this piece of equipment would be. And we each took a floor. So I got the second floor and she got the third, Mark got the fourth. And no one told me that once you were done checking the floor, we were going to go back downstairs. I thought we were just going to keep meeting up with each other on the floors. So, like, I was just going around taking pictures and doing all this stuff. And as I was on the third floor, I could hear things up in the asylum happening. So I just assumed it was Mark and Deanna up there hanging out, doing whatever they were doing. So I go to the only staircase that connects in that wing. And the second I pass over the threshold and my foot steps on the first stair that goes up towards the asylum, I get a text message on my watch from Deanna saying, "Hey, we're going to breakfast to save a table. We'll see you there." And I was like, wait, what? I stood there quietly looking up at the empty staircase, and the only thing that rang from it was silence. So I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So I ran back down, found them and like opened up the door to the lobby where we all were. And there was Mark and Deanna like with their hand on the door getting ready to leave. And I was like, you guys weren't just upstairs, were you? And they're like, no, we've been down here for at least like 5 minutes.
Oh. That is spooky.
Yeah. And like, I will say that I hate going off by myself. It's something that I'm working on, but like in the morning it was fine. I was just like, you know what, just take all your pictures, take your video, it's cool. And like hearing all this stuff like movement and door thing, and I was like, oh, it's just Mark and Dan, it's fine. And I'm like, oh no, it's not fine.
Well, that kind of I was going to ask you if you do your adventures, if you go on them by yourself, but obviously you don't. You have friends that go with you, I guess. Yeah.
So for the most part, I kind of go off by myself, and I just meet up with friends. So like if we're all like I drive alone to most of the places.
Mm-hmm.
There's some investigations, like some cemeteries and like just some random content that I'll do alone. But when it comes to like investigating, I kind of just like have a group of like a core 4 that I hang out with.
Yeah.
And we just mix and match people who come in and everything. So I kind of like have a group and I kind of don't.
So the people that your core 4, so are I guess they're people who are paranormal investigators themselves, right?
Yeah.
So do you have a group of friends or any friends at all that aren't into this whole paranormal stuff that you're into, and they think you're like weird or anything?
Yes. And that is kind of why I made my Instagram, because I was getting really sick of not being able to like go to these places. And, you know, I just kind of like wanted those friends to have this like have all these spooky adventures with, because everyone I know, like all my work friends, some of my family, and all my other friends, you know, they'll come with me, but some of them also put up such a resistance to it, which I understand. I mean, there's not a lot of people out there who want to spend a night in a cold, haunted place, hoping that they get the Jesus scared out of them.
Exactly. Exactly. I have the same problem as I have some friends that just aren't into it, and you know, they'll if I twist their arm hard enough, you know, they'll probably go with me somewhere, but you know, it's not the same thing as taking people who are really enthusiastic about being there, you know?
Yes, exactly. I always try to get them, because as weird as it sounds, I will go into haunted abandoned buildings. I will go in the middle of the night and do things that no one wants to do, but yet I won't go into like a haunted attraction, like a haunted house. Those scared like the living crap out of me. So when someone's like, do you want to go to the haunted houses? So I'll be like, do you want to go to a real haunted place?
That makes absolutely no sense to me, but
right?
So
I don't know why. Like,
yeah, yeah, it makes no sense. I don't know. I don't even know where to start with that one. So,
I don't
go
know. I don't even know where to begin.
So, where is the like you're in New York? So, where is the furthest place that you've gone to do an investigation?
I think it is. I'm gonna say I think it's Waverly Hills. I had the chance to finally cross that off my bucket list this year, and I want to say that was a 10-hour drive, but that's also competing with Indiana, and because Indiana was like a 9-hour drive, so one of those two have been the longest.
I wish I had known that you were doing Waverly Hills, because I totally would have met you there, because it's only a couple of hours drive for me from Nashville.
Man, yeah, so my friend Steve, we honestly just met on Instagram last year, and we've done a whole bunch of investigations, and he put out this call on his Instagram story and was like, hey, I'm booking a Waverly Hills date. Message me if you want in. And I think within like 5 seconds of him posting that, I was like, I'm in. What's your Venmo? Here's the money. Like, just take it. I'm in. No, no questions asked.
Take all my money, please. Yeah.
Yes. And so that I did that. I did a night there, and like the day before, I did like a historical like daytime tour to kind of like get all like the jitters out and like get like the daytime pictures and stuff.
Yeah.
But that investigation was bananas.
So I've investigated Waverly Hills twice, and I've had some freaky things happen to me while I was there. One of the freakiest was all of the shadow people that roam the hallways.
Yes. Cool. Yes. At one point, I remember it was up on the 4th floor. I remember looking down the hallway, and I was frozen because we had our whole group up there, and everyone was kind of like checking out the porches and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just so dead set on this hallway, and I remember staring at it. And a friend just like poked their head out, and I grabbed their arm. I was like, "Please look down there, and please let me know you're seeing this." And we ended up seeing a shadow walk towards us. And the closer it got, like the more I like gripped her arm, and I was like, "Oh my god, like is this really happening?"
Oh.
I'm like, I knew there were shadow people here, but I didn't know they'd like walk up on you. And someone like called our names, and we like looked over, and we looked back real quick, and it was gone.
Oh wow! On my first, it was my first investigation there. One of my group, we actually wound up splitting up, which, you're technically not ever supposed to do, but we decided we were going to like cover more ground that way. And we kind of split up, and one of our group was on one of the balconies. I can't remember which floor it is. I think it was maybe on the 4th floor. And it wasn't a shadow person. She described it more as a black mass type thing. It didn't attack her, but it kind of rushed at her. And it just scared the hell out of her to the point to where she backed up against the wall and just kind of sank down on the floor there and stayed there and didn't move. And so,
oh my God.
Yeah, we were gone for, I don't know. And when we split off, we were gone for maybe 20 minutes, something like that. It wasn't all that long of a time. But when I came back and she was there, she was hella pissed at everybody for leaving her there, and we just kind of walked off and left her. And it wasn't one of those things where like, oh, we're gonna all split up and cover more ground this way. It's not like something we discussed. It was just like we just kind of did it.
Happened.
Yeah, and she was all kinds of pissed off. So we had to spend a little bit of time making that up to her. But that was probably one of the freakiest things that happened while I was there. And we did have, in our pictures from that investigation, we had a really weird thing happen. I've never heard of this happen to anyone before, and I've never had it happen to me since. But there was, in pictures, there was a succession of pictures where there is I don't know how else to describe it, except there is a skull that is visible in the background. And it's the same, It's the same skull. And it's in like 3 or 4 pictures. And
That's so weird.
Yeah. And what's even more weird is that it's not like 3 or 4 pictures in the same room. It's 3 or 4 pictures in 3 or 4 different locations in the sanatorium, and there is a skull, and it's really weird. So I don't know what that's all about, but I've never heard of anyone having anything like that before.
No, I never heard.
Waverly.
I never heard of that.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's really weird, but Waverly Hills was it was number one on my bucket list for many years. And
yeah,
definitely worth it. Definitely worth it.
That's the first thing I tell anyone. Is like they're like, oh my God, I want to go. I'm like, it is worth the wait. Like it's worth the wait. Like you could wait. I waited 20 years. It is worth it. and my thing is that like, if we didn't have anything happen that night, I would have just been happy to be there. I like in my heart that place is haunted. It doesn't have to prove it to me. I know it's haunted.
Yeah,
like,
me
it's
too.
Fine. But like everything we had happen there was just like the cherry on top of it all. And did you guys do the Waverly challenge?
No, I don't think that was a thing when we were there, because I saw that you wrote about that on your Facebook page, but that was not like a thing when we went.
Man, I wonder when it started.
I don't know. So
we had like 2 groups of 3 doing it.
So tell everybody what the Waverly Challenge is, in case there are people who don't know, such as myself.
Okay. So the Waverly Challenge is this fun little solo challenge that basically, there's a couple different versions of it, but like the first version I heard is that one person, like you go in one by one person goes in and they have to walk the entire building, floor to floor, end to end, all the way up until the 5th floor. And then you're supposed to put a Post-it note or a note there and then come back down. And, the next person goes up, they do the same thing. They grab the note as proof and come down, and you keep going until everyone's done.
Sounds like it could take a long time.
So it kind of takes a long time. And you have to do this all without a flashlight, which is just terrifying. But
how are you supposed to find the Post-it note?
Right? That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
But at the end of the night when we went, there was we ended up going in groups of 3 because I think we only had like 45 minutes left, and we had probably about like this weird hour and a half of just crazy things happening that we kind of like didn't want to be alone.
Yeah. So
it was 3 people. They heard a noise and they're like, oh, we're going to go see what it was. And we had no idea they were even going to start the challenge. So 3 of them started from the 5th floor and they were going to go down. And we were like, we thought we were going to do it with them, but then we were like, no, let's just do it by ourselves. So it was me and 2 other girls. We started from the 1st floor and went to the 5th. And so we were going to meet the guys in the middle on the 3rd. Come to find out, as they were waiting on the 5th floor for us, they saw a flashlight beam in the staircase, and they heard my voice coming up the stairs. They gave it a minute, and then I never showed up. And probably about like 2 minutes after that, I walkied them saying, hey, we're about to start the challenge on the 1st floor. Where are you guys?
Oh, no.
So that whole night, I don't know what was going on, but everyone's voice was getting mimicked. And
really? Oh,
God. It's the strangest thing to me because I have such a distinct voice, especially like a distinct laugh. And for anything to like replicate that, it's just really weird to me. It's just really like it's really weird.
See, we didn't have walkie-talkies when we went in.
We had one walkie-talkie. So we, like, the guys had one and then we had one.
Okay. And
we met them up on the 3rd floor. But as we were on the 3rd floor, we were waiting for them. So I was like, oh, let's shut our lights off. Let's get our eyes adjusted. And, we kind of stood there and we looked down and, we heard something. And we have this crazy EVP of this all happening. because I had no idea my friend Charisse was actually recording us. Mm-hmm. So we're all standing there, and we hear someone. So we start walking towards it. And in the EVP, it picks up someone to the right of me going, I think it said hey or hello, or it was, no, it said it was me. Sorry, I was thinking about something else. It said it was me. Oh. And I heard it with my own ears. Charisse heard it with her own ears, but the other girl that was with us, she didn't hear it at all. So me and Charisse stopped dead in our tracks and we're like, what was that? Like, is there a girl with you guys? And they were like, because they were coming down the hallway. So the other group said, oh yeah, Hannah's with us. And throughout the EVP, you can hear our like processing this. We're like, oh, okay, it's just her. No big deal. And the guys quickly go, she didn't say anything. Yeah. But when we replayed the EVP, and the second I heard that it was me, I was like, oh shit, that's Hannah. Like, that's definitely Hannah's voice. But everyone, like Steve, Dylan, and Hannah herself, they all swear up and down she did not say a single word.
Wow. I've never heard of anyone consistently having like their group mimicked like that before.
Yeah, it was so weird. Like it happened all night, and I remember someone getting so annoyed because they just thought they were being loud. Like they were being loud and they were coming to join with us, but then like they'd never show. They were like, what the hell is happening? And it was just a phenomenon that we had happened all night long. Like, I remember that at one point we were hearing voices, and I was like, guys, you have to tell us where you are. Like, we're trying to, like, figure something out. And, like, no one said anything. And, like, 5 minutes later, we get a call, like, why were you guys yelling? We're like, man. What the hell? Like, we heard you guys.
Oh, man. That has got to be all kinds of frustrating.
Yeah.
But yet exciting at the same time.
But yeah, I was just going to say, like, I've probably told all these Waverly stories, like, a handful of times since that March date. Mm-hmm. So I am eagerly awaiting this spring when we go back again.
Oh, so you're going back this spring?
Yeah, I'm going back for possibly 3 dates in a row. Wow. My two friends, they rented out 2 dates, and then Steve is doing a date with people he opened it up to on Instagram again. So I don't know. I'm hoping for some real good stuff these dates.
Well, you'll have to let me know when those dates are, and if I can swing it, man, I'll crash your party. I'll come up there. Tell Steve to hold a spot for me.
I mean, you can message him and see what's up. I'm not involved in that group chat, so I don't know like who's all in on that date, but I know that there's definitely going to be a party one night with just a whole bunch of people wanting to experience everything we experience.
All right, I'll tell you what. After we get finished here, I'll email you, and you can give me Steve's Instagram account.
Sounds like a plan.
So we're running out of time, and real quick before we go, I know that we have a mutual friend, Amanda Woomer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who is runs the website Spook Eats, and she is a phenomenal human being. I love Amanda to death, and she is a big paranormal enthusiast. She's done a lot of investigating herself. As a matter of fact, Spook Eats is, how to describe it, it's where she goes to haunted inns, taverns, bars, restaurants, and basically has a meal and then does an investigation. And she's been on the podcast a couple of times where I've interviewed her, and her latest passion project is trying to bring about more recognition for women in the paranormal field. And she has authored several books And one of the things that she's done here lately with this passion project of hers is gather stories from female paranormal investigators, non-paranormal investigators, women who've just had something weird happen to them, and collect it in a volume of stories, and it's called the Feminine Macabre. And you were in there's I know 2 volumes, and I think there's a third one coming out, and you have been in the first volume, right? And you're going to be in the third as well?
Yeah. So I have been one of the very fortunate writers to be in the first volume of the book. And I am going to also be featured in the third, coming out in March.
Can you, without giving away too much, can you tell us what your story is going to be about? Is that possible?
So I'll tell you that my first story that was accepted in volume 1 is about a kind of morbid device that was brought about from fear in the Victorian age. And you might have heard it. You might have heard of it. It is this little bell that rings in the night and kind of gave us the term graveyard shift. So I don't want to give too much away on that one, because that one was a fun little article to write.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying, yeah, I'm just.
Oh, sorry. And then the third, the one that I wrote for the volume coming out in March, it is kind of about a dangerous game, a dangerous occult game.
Okay. And this is coming out in March, the volume 3, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's going to debut sometime in March.
And where can people pick up copies of The Feminine Macabre?
So you can pick up copies through Amanda herself. She has them on her Etsy account. You can just go to Spookies and you can find all her stuff on the website or on her Instagram. But if you don't want to do that, you can also find it on Amazon.
Sweet. Well, I have yet to get a copy of The Feminine Macabre, so I have to. And I keep saying, man, I gotta. Every time I see something when she posts, like on Twitter or whatever, I'm like, damn it, I forgot I was gonna buy that book and I forgot to buy it. So I have to make sure I get on that, because I want to support my friend Amanda, and I do want to, support everybody in the world of the paranormal. And if you take a look at it, Courtney, I think there are definitely more women than men who are involved in the paranormal, but for whatever reason, all of these paranormal TV shows that are so popular these days focus mainly on the masculinity side, the masculine side of things for whatever reason. And I think that Amanda is definitely onto something here, and she's got a good cause and she's got a good thing going on. So definitely want to support her and you and all the other women in the field of the paranormal. So I'm glad to see that you are helping her with that. So good on you for that.
Yeah. It's kind of weird how like this whole field has become like a quote unquote boy show, yeah. I guess you can say. Mm-hmm. But hopefully with the way that the world is kind of changing, and we start seeing more of the people who want to have a voice in this field, who have the stories and who have, experiences that just get overshadowed because, they're not on paranormal TV, or, they're not somehow famous through this way, or, just whatever. Mm-hmm. But Amanda has really, really found something, and I absolutely hope this stays around for a very long time, because
I do too.
Just the entries in the book coming from various different like walks of life and cultures, and different. Everyone's different beliefs. It's a very awesome thing to be a part of. And I've said this ever since I got into the first book. It has been a project that I have been so proud to be a part of, and I am so honored to have even been thought of for this. So I hope the Feminine Macabre or Cabaret is around for a very long time.
I think that it will be, especially if Amanda continues to have anything to do with it, because once she gets an idea for something in her head, man, it just doesn't leave. I mean, it's bam, it stays there.
Honest, yeah.
So once again, thank you, Courtney, for being on ParaReality. It's been a real pleasure to interview you, and I wish that we had more time, because I would love to hear more of your story. So I tell you what, I'm going to give you an open invitation to come back on the podcast, and let's finish up.
I love that.
That's great. I would definitely love to have you back on again for a round two. It sounds like there's so many more stories that we just didn't get around to listening to. So I really would like to hear some more of your stories. So yeah, I would love to have you back on ParaReality if you'll come back on.
Of course. And with this year, there's only going to be more stories added to that. So I am here for it.
All right. And I'll definitely send you email after we hang up, and I'll get your friend's Instagram account, and we'll stay in touch. And yeah, I'm definitely going to get you back on the podcast again. So thank you for coming on ParaReality. So before we sign off, in case there's somebody out there that is listening to this podcast and they want to get in touch with you, maybe they have a podcast and they want to interview you, or maybe they want to ask you a question or invite you to come, and visit their haunted location or something like that, how can people get in touch with you?
So you can find me on Instagram, on Twitter. All my handles are the Ghoul Guide, so you can always reach out to me on there. I do have a Gmail account if you feel more comfortable emailing me. My email is theghoulguide@gmail.com, so you can always send me emails or send me messages on Instagram or whatever, and I will most definitely get back to you, and we'll see what we can do.
All right. Well, that's how you can get in touch with Courtney, the Ghoul Guide, everywhere on social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. What did I miss something?
No, I think we got it all.
I think we got it all. Yeah. So Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, the Ghoul Guide, and if you want to get in touch with her, it's theghoulguide@gmail.com. So those are all the ways that you can find Courtney. So Courtney, the Ghoul Guide, thank you for being my guest here on ParaReality, and it's been a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm definitely going to have you back on again sometime. And let's stay in touch, and if you ever get around to any southern locations, especially around the Nashville area, let me know, and we'll get together and I'll show you around.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well,
thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being on the podcast. And if you'll hang around for a minute, I'll sign us off here, and we'll talk offline here for a second.
Okay.
All right, everybody. This was Courtney, the Ghoul Guide. If you want to get in touch with her, if you want to find out all about her haunted adventures and travels all around the mid-state area and the East Coast, just look her up on all of the social media except for YouTube. She's not there yet, but follow her on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Ghoul Guide. Or if you want to give her an email, ask her a question, maybe you have a haunted location you'd like for her to come visit, email her theghoulguide@gmail.com. And once again, thank you, Courtney, the Ghoul Guide, for being my guest, the very first guest of 2022 here on ParaReality. Well, everybody, that about does it for tonight. Thanks for listening, and a special thank you goes out to Courtney for agreeing to be my guest here on ParaReality. It was a great pleasure to interview you, Courtney, and definitely going to have you back on the podcast at some point in time. But before I close it out, I want you guys to listen to one more theme.
Do you like being scared? Does the feeling of your throat tightening in fear, leaving you unable to scream, excite you? If the answer to these questions is yes, then you should listen to Scared to Death, stories of suspense, science fiction, and horror. Scared to Death airs the third Friday of every month at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Tune in for the fright of your life.
It's alive! Oh, it's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Are you fed up with the way things are going in the world? Have you always wanted to say whatever was on your mind without having to listen to someone bitch about it or suffer any repercussions? Well, me too. That's why I created the Set It Off podcast. I'm sick and tired of the stupidity that's going on around here, and I'm going to let everybody know how I feel about it. So hop on board this train and fasten your seatbelt, because I'm about to set it off. Set It Off can be heard on your favorite podcast station. New episodes drop on the fourth Friday of every month at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. You never know what I'm going to say next. Well, everybody, I really hope that you enjoyed tonight's episode of ParaReality. If you want to leave a comment about it or anything else about the podcast, let me tell you how you can get in touch with me here, because there are a few different ways you can do it, and here we go. The best, quickest, and easiest way is to email me. My email address, of course, is sandman@parareality.com. That's sandman@parareality.com. Or you can find me on my social media accounts. First of all, we got Facebook. You can find me at the official ParaReality podcast Facebook page at facebook.com/sandman.parareality. That's facebook.com/sandmanparareality. You can post a message on my wall there, or slide right into my DMs and send me a message on Facebook at any time. And if you have a Twitter or an Instagram account, you can follow me on both of those. My username for both accounts is at ParaRealRadio. That's at ParaRealRadio. You can always post me there. You can always post a message there or slide into my DMs right there on Instagram and Twitter. And finally, you can always call the podcast here at the Secret Bunker at 615-692-1170 and leave me a message on the studio line. But I want you to remember this. If you do decide to call and leave me a message, you are giving me permission to play your comment back on the podcast. So, if you don't want that to happen, you'll need to let me know somewhere in your message. I'm always looking for interesting stories for the podcast. So if you've got a story that you'd like to get on the show, you can email me. You can send me a DM or whatever, let me know about your story, or you can just leave it to me over the voicemail. That number to call is 615-692-1170. Now, remember, if you're going to leave me a voicemail message, there's a 3-minute time limit on that voicemail. So if you run out of time, call back, pick up where you left off. So those are all the different ways that you can get in contact with me, Sandman, here on ParaReality. And also, please don't forget to visit my website, ParaReality.com. That's a place where you can keep up on all the latest paranormal news from all around the world. I've got an entire page of the website devoted to the paranormal news, and that content is updated just about on a daily basis. It's under the Para News tab on the website. You can also shop in the ParaReality store. By the way, I just found out that I had a broken link on the ParaReality store there on my website. Didn't know that about that until I was just, doing some regular website checks. I don't like frequently look at the website for like broken links and stuff like that on a like weekly basis. I do it like every month or every other month. I probably should be a little bit better at that. But I just found out the link for the ParaReality store is broken, but that's fixed now. So you can feel free to shop in the ParaReality store. You can watch some of the terrible videos that I've made for the podcast over the years and listen to the podcast also archives. Also, the archives are under the archives section. I got tons of audio on the website from the various incarnations of ParaReality throughout the years, along with my other podcasts that I just played the commercial for, Set It Off and Scared to Death. You can find all of that content 100% for free on the archives section of the website. That's ParaReality.com. Please make sure you check that out. ParaReality can be heard on your favorite podcast station. Just search for ParaReality. That's all you got to do, or ParaReality Podcast. If you've got a smart speaker and you've got your podcast station activated on your smart device, you can listen there too. If you've got any of those podcast skills, just say, hey, play the ParaReality Podcast. I've also got a YouTube account, and you can listen to the podcast on YouTube there. Believe it or not, I have a lot of people who listen to the podcast on YouTube. I upload all the audio to my YouTube channel, and it's also got some great videos like some UFO and paranormal documentaries. I've got some chemtrail videos and some other stuff that I've made throughout the years. Plus, it has some of those horrible videos that I did for my web show that you guys already know about. So to find that channel, all you got to do is go to youtube.com and do a search for ParaReality, or you can just go directly to the channel, which is youtube.com/user/ParaReality1. That's the number 1, not spelled out. It's the number 1. youtube.com/user/ParaReality1. So those are all of my website, social media accounts, all the ways you can get in touch with me. Remember, the quickest and easiest way is probably just to email me, sandman@ParaReality.com. Once again, thank you to Courtney for being my guest on this special episode of the podcast, and I really, really hope to have you back again sometime soon. Everybody, the next episode of ParaReality will air on February 18th at 8 o'clock p.m. Central U.S. time, so make sure you tune in, and find out. I hope that this podcast opens your mind up to new ways of thinking, expands your consciousness, and produces a change in the way you see the world. If you wish to change, you must lift the veil of ignorance that has been cast over your eyes. Only then will you see the true power of the universe. I hope that you have a wonderful evening, an even better weekend, and I will see you all again on February 18th. Good night, everybody.
If you wish to change, you must first lift the veil of ignorance that has been cast over your eyes. Only then will you see the true power of the universe.